of there we go, and a good overview of the different aspects of say the education and skills space. What's my role in the team? Other than being a senior account manager, I tend to do a lot of the SME engagements and providing them the support. That's everything from hand holding through to demystifying the DAS account and communicating some key messaging when it comes around the value of apprenticeships within their businesses. I do a lot of this through events and conferences and much more. And I do, as you probably gather, a lot of the external engagement within the team, not business development activity, right through to getting out and about and networking and meeting some of the small businesses that tend to do the circuits out and about in within the local communities. And finally, I build those relationships with providers like yourselves, from colleges to independent training providers. But more importantly, I'm here to kind of work alongside you to support the SMEs that you work with, and we do that through levy transfer. Back to
Great.
you.
Thanks, Ajay. You can see now the recording has started. Sorry for the interruption. This is our agenda, so this is what we'll go through. We'll do an introduction to ourselves for those that are new to Workwhile. I'm then going to give some background to the program. How's the funding come about? How have we got to here? Then the all important, well, what is the program and what are the details behind it and what we're expecting of you, the application process that we'll go through over the next couple of weeks, and then finally making sure that we've got time to take any questions as we go to answer some of the questions at the end. If you do have questions as we go, please do use the chat function, put them in as we go. We may then answer them during the presentation, and if not, we will come back to them at the end. We will also send out a written answers to all of the questions that we get today by the end of tomorrow, so that anybody who's not here, or if there is some extra detail that we can add after this webinar to those questions, then we will do so. So, Ajay, over to you to introduce us.
Cool. For those that don't know who Workwhile are, we're essentially the result of a piece of research commissioned by JP Morgan and a successful pilot project launched back in early 2020. Um, excuse me, where we were tasked with increasing the uptake of apprenticeships across frontline sectors and providing practical hand-holding, free advice and guidance, and support through to the first of its kind, launching a levy transfer scheme here in London. As you can tell, we are a small and lean and agile team. We're a charity and mission driven. We partner with key stakeholders to build a better world of work where essentially everyone has a chance to thrive. We believe talent is everywhere, but access to quality jobs is not so accessible. So our goal is a fairer job market where everyone can find meaningful and sustainable employment. And we want to do this through creating apprenticeships in partnerships with employers and providers like yourselves. Next slide, Kevin. So now I've shared a little bit about the who, what do we actually do? And our work, let's say our activity falls into three strands. The free services, you probably better say, is we essentially, help create apprenticeships. We deliver practical support service for SMEs and, essentially leverage unspent apprenticeship levy funds to cover the cost of apprenticeship training for smaller businesses and organisations here across London. Back then, we achieved the proof of concept could work, and this remains the core work of what Workwhile do to this day. We essentially create high quality apprenticeships with our large network of businesses and training providers. The second strand, while we help those businesses to the front door with yourselves, we understand the value of support required for those supervising and managing apprentices in the workplace. So we launched our line management training program, Developmental, which is a short program of training for line managers who line manage apprentices. The aim of the training is to improve progression outcomes for those apprentices, that work in those small businesses, while helping those line managers with bite-sized chunks of knowledge that enables them to get the best out of their apprentices through coaching and mentoring. And our final offer is essentially to complement our core funding, our philanthropically funded work. We deliver paid consultancy work to support large employers around the growth and skills levy. We have several commission projects that you can find out more about on our projects page on our website. So that covers off all areas, what we do. And here's a bit of a snapshot around the impact of our work in numbers. While this showcases the impact of our work, it's achieved working in collaboration with colleges across London, independent training providers that deliver to SMEs across London too. We appreciate and understand the challenges of the apprenticeship landscape, but also understand the value of collaboration and joining those dots to ensure seamless level support required for those businesses, organizations, and SMEs that just struggle to engage with apprenticeships. Hopefully, this gives you some insight into who we are and a bit around the background to where we come from. Over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Ajay. So why this program? So we secured funding earlier this year from the Youth Futures Foundation to carry out the project that's outlined there on the screen. This from a background, of course, of a real drop in apprenticeships. Apprenticeship starts at level 2 and 3 by around a third since 2017. So there's a real desire to increase the level 2 and 3 apprenticeship supply, as it says there. So the project has come in sort of three parts. We've broken it down. So a research phase, a planning, so what now once we've done some of the research, and then going into the new year will be the delivery of the solution we've come up with. So our research phase, what do we do? So we initially set out on this on the period of research to explore the barriers faced by SMEs in creating level 2 and 3 opportunities, particularly for marginalised young people. We started by pooling our expertise of the small team that you've met on the slide earlier, as well as working with SMEs and training providers. We did a lot of desk-based research, such as the St Martin's report I've got pictured there on the screen, and other sources such as Social Market Foundation, CIPD, CITB, so on and so forth. So we did a lot there. From that, we found that 5 areas really stood out to us as barriers. The landscape is complex, and this puts SMEs off from even starting in some cases. There's the funding constraints, under resourcing, particularly for wages, under recruitment, the challenge of visibility and brand recognition, plus the flexibility of starting times of apprenticeship training that was available. Particularly from SMEs themselves, working with training providers, as in the availability of standards and the flexibility of programs for especially in quite niche settings of our SMEs, of course. And then finally, supporting apprentices once in role. So particularly for marginalised young people, the need of one-to-one support was highlighted, but the ability to actually do this within the limited resource available and expertise within SMEs also limited. So we took those 5 areas, looked into them further by hosting an online survey and some more in-depth interviews with SMEs and training providers, FJAs as well, to really understand even more about those 5 areas. This narrowed us down to 2 common areas across the piece. So this was the experience of training providers of working with SMEs, and the experience of SMEs of working with training providers was one area, and also what had come through, possibly slightly more surprising, certainly to me, after the first 5 parts, was then came out a real area of work readiness of young people as well. So part 2 was to then sit down and come up with some solutions. So we then presented to a group of SMEs three ideas, presented these over a morning, and had a sort of workshop on the barriers and the challenges of facing these, and what they thought might work. From that, we had, as highlighted, number two, which is why we're here now, of course, is design a program for training providers, helping them to support SMEs. So this is where we are today. That was the background how we got here. So now let's look at, in a bit more detail, what have we designed. Well, firstly, our name, SME Champion Providers. So first of all, who's it for? So for training providers that are keen to either develop or extend your work with SMEs around apprenticeships at level 2 and 3. In a bit more detail, for those coming onto the programme, we're looking at 2 places per training provider on the programme. So a sort of senior leader within your organisation who can have an impact across multiple programmes, and then managers, which we'll talk about a bit more. So managers can be rotated through the sessions, because they'll be taking a more practical day-to-day, right, under the different topics that we'll look at in the sessions. We're covering skills that they can go and use immediately, and you can rotate that person through during the sessions. I'll talk about that through the next slide. In terms of, at the moment, what we feel the benefits will be, upskilling of staff. So you're seeing just the managers, of course, greater knowledge of the whole SME landscape, so the challenges that are faced there, and some examples of how they've overcome those challenges through working with training providers, widening your whole SME network, thus boosting the numbers of people on your programs, but also because it is a pilot program and we hope to take this learning on after this initial cohort, you will be playing a part in a wider impact as well, hopefully going into the future and creating a lot more level 2 and 3 apprenticeships. In terms of the program then, so just really want to highlight initially is a pilot program. So we're delivering this for the first time. You're all experts in this area, of course. So there may be, I'm going to go through the 7 sessions that we intend to deliver, but it does come with that asterisk of we may change things slightly, particularly in the second half, as we go, based on the feedback and the experience that we have delivering. But based on the research and the consultation that we've done so far, we're reasonably confident that the areas that we're going to cover will deliver the most impact. And so we're looking for people to join, not just to benefit yourself directly, of course, but then further on having that greater system-wide impact. So 7 sessions that we'll cover. I'll do the content behind those and then get into the practicalities of the how after. So you're in the first session, introduction to the program, meeting your peers, exploring the benefits of working with SMEs, understanding the challenges that they face in offering apprenticeships to young people from marginalised backgrounds. And then with that in mind, we cover how to generate your offer to SMEs. So for instance, what standards to offer, and then how you go to market with that offer and effectively sell that offer to SMEs, and thinking about that SME audience. We'll also share guidance on the networks that you can reach, that you can use to reach SMEs. So hopefully, again, appealing to both the senior leader and the manager. So for the senior leader, thinking about the strategy of going to market, but of course for the manager is tapping into that day-to-day knowledge of what's the challenges of working with SMEs. Following that, in the second session, we look at recruitment. So this is recruiting SMEs themselves, following on from that session 1. So getting the SME to be interested in your programs, of course, but then also how to support the SMEs in the recruitment of young people. So thinking around what services you can provide to help SMEs to create apprenticeships around the resourcing, for instance, helping them to navigate the knowledge challenge that we looked at in the research phase. Just such a complex environment for SMEs that are starting out. We also look at the support that you can give to SMEs in recruiting those apprentices through advertising, supporting with job descriptions, the interviewing that the SMEs will go through to fill the vacancies that hopefully they're creating. We'll then look at great communication. So in the third session, so setting up a communication plan, how you communicate with apprentices and SMEs, but that's beyond the day-to-day. So for the manager thinking around, right, what does a communication plan look like, and what will that look day-to-day? But then also beyond that, how to celebrate the successes, how to tell a story of impact that you're having to really advocate apprenticeships going forward. Fourth session, sometimes things don't work out as planned for either the SME, for the apprentice, or both. So this session will help to, first of all, look through risk registers, risk planning, preparing a robust risk plan, risk register, and then mitigating those challenges, like how do you mitigate against where they haven't worked, how to react, and how to solve. And this will also examine how where it's appropriate to be involved in the conflict or the challenge that can occur between the apprentices and the SME themselves. So where is it appropriate for you as a training provider to be involved in those conversations, and where can you help solve that? The fifth session, program quality. So creating a robust feedback strategy, ensuring the voices of the apprentices, the SMEs, are heard throughout and then subsequently acted upon in your day-to-day work. We'll also consider the role of trainers here. So how do you measure the quality of the delivery of your trainers, but also how can you keep hold of your trainers in what really is a competitive market? And that links us back to some of the research that we showed and some of the stories we heard from both training providers and SMEs of we lose our trainers halfway through a program, or we can't recruit really high quality trainers to actually get us started. So we'll be looking at that. Ensuring there's been a pilot program is still under development, but one other area that I'm looking at here for the program quality session is the role of assessors. And so we're out doing a little bit more research and talking to some training providers about the role of assessors, and actually if it's appropriate for us to bring something into this session as well. And then session 6, which is the final session of delivery of content, and here. So we know that SMEs find it difficult to take on those young apprentices, and the rest of the program is designed for you to help them do that. But what we do finish with, what we're tending to finish with, is how you can form alliances with others to campaign for system change, to better support SMEs and young people. So we're intending to have a speaker join us for this final session from the world of policy to help us deliver. And having covered all that, we'll also be talking about a change initiative, which comes into the session 7, which will be led by yourselves, by those people on the programme, where we're going to ask you to undertake a change initiative at the end of the programme after session 6, with a 3-month gap up until session 7. So let me focus a little bit more in on that. So we put this in as we want the programme to actually lead to change, and leads to more apprenticeships at level 2 and 3. So therefore we'll be introducing it at the end of that session 6, so that you can take the learning from the programme and hone in on one area that you'd like to improve within your setting. So it might be considering how you onboard not just apprentices, but SMEs. And so you might need a change in practice that you would like to lead across all of the standards that you offer as a training provider. Likewise, we might have sparked an idea on how you work with your trainers. So we'll look at the options you have here for how you might want to develop a strategy that affects your trainers across all of the programs that you deliver. We'll look at those options in that final session and give you an opportunity to choose. We'll have conversations after that. We'll be really supportive in setting you up on a change initiative, and providing templates, etc., for you to go away and write that up. And then we'll come back to that seventh session. The idea being that everyone gets to see 9 other case studies. We've got 10 places on the programme, so 9 other case studies of things that people have tried that might be relevant for you to see and think, oh, that looks like it's worked there. We can go away and work that here. Would also be open to you working in partnerships. So if a couple of people on the programme want to work on something very similar, so you might want to join up with a colleague from the programme to do that. In terms of the delivery model, all of the training is online, so the 7 sessions will be online. I've got the dates coming up on another slide that's shared in the participant information sheet as well. So they'll be delivered predominantly by myself and Ajay, so sharing the knowledge that we've gained ourselves through the research as well, sharing some best practice from other training providers, sharing success stories from SMEs as well. There'll of course be discussion. It certainly won't be like this has been so far, just the two of us talking at you for 90 minutes. There will be, of course, interactive sessions, giving you the opportunity to share some of the stuff that you're doing. With no doubt that in some areas people coming onto the programme will have some good ideas, and we hope to really cultivate that idea of sharing these good ideas across. The 6th session that we have is we are intending to bring somebody from the world of policy. So we have good links with IPPR, which is where we started out before we went independent earlier this year, and have a good window into that organisation who can share about, well, how do we as a one training provider go and influence policy, and they'll take us through that in that 6th session. Our commitments to those coming on, so evidence-informed sessions based on our research. We really will support on the change initiative. We'll also give direction to further learning. So the sessions are only 90 minutes, which is not necessarily going to solve everything, is it? On, for instance, a strategy on how you QA your trainers, for instance. So we will direct to further learning and further reading beyond the sessions, and we will react to the feedback. We're really keen that we have people on the programme that are willing to share and just really be honest with us, because that's going to make it for a much better programme that we'll have as a pilot, but also going forward as well. So there are a couple of times where the sessions are quite well spread out to give us time to do that. So commitments from those coming onto the programme, of course, fully funded, so there's no cost involved, but attendance at the sessions for the 2 people from your organisations on those dates, they're all 9:30 till 11 on those days there. You'll see that the gap then from April to June is that opportunity to get stuck into your change initiative and bring it back at the end of June. We've also mentioned that we would like some data. So it was maths that I taught, so I'm very aware of cause and effects, etc. But one way that we'll be looking at the data is level 2 and 3 starts this academic year 25-26 compared to where it goes 26-27. I mean, it's also good to share that from a YFF, from our funders' point of view, Youth Futures Foundation, we haven't got KPIs on this. But this is they're very open of, do the research, come up with a plan, try it, see what happens, see how it goes. Okay, so we're not looking, we haven't got that pressure of meeting a KPI here, but it will be interesting for us to see the impact that we are having, of course, and then just that final request for the honest feedback as we're trying something out for the first time. The application process. So deadline is this Friday, 5 p.m. Please complete all of the sections that are on there. We'll put the link in the chat, I will before we go here, but there'll also be a follow-up email after this session as well with that link. You'll need to complete all of the sections. There is a final question, that's 16, which I've got on the screen there. Just wanted to highlight that. So we're looking here just for your commitment to the programme. Like, what are the reasons that brought you to this? Do you have a focus on creating level 2 and 3 apprenticeships? I've actually put on the Microsoft form a little bit more detail and some hints on there as well. But in terms of the timeline, deadlines to apply, as I say, by Friday, and then we'll be looking at them early next week and hoping, because Christmas is coming, to have outcomes by the end of next week, with the programme start at the 20th of January. Again, in terms of how do we make our decision progress, the process we're going to go through. So we are really looking for a variety by geography, by where people are in the country, by your existing size. So we want people that might be just starting out at this level 2 and 3s and have limited experience there. Some that might be bigger and are growing in this area, different levels of experience, and also by the sectors that you're working with. I didn't catch them exactly, but some of the questions that are coming up, I think, were about that. So we are not going to be giving particular guidance in a section. So it's not in a sector. So we're not going to be construction focused or early years focused. It's going to be slightly more generic than that to encompass all the different sectors at this stage. Of course, something that we're looking further down the line into the future, then of course maybe something sector specific might come about, but at the moment, no. So we're looking for a real variety. So it does mean that it's not like an old UCAS application or something I would have been going through, and that everything's going to hinge on this 500-word answer. Okay, so please don't be stressing about that. Just follow the bullet points that we've put in there as extra guidance. But yeah, it's absolutely not going to all hinge on that. Okay, and that's all from us. So it does leave us 15 minutes for questions. AJ, hopefully you've had an eye on the chat as I've been going. Any to start us off with that we might not have covered?
Yeah, so a couple here and a couple that was submitted through when they signed up originally. The first question here was, and I think you've answered it.